She kept her triplets hidden from the billionaire CEO for 5 years, until fate reunited them. Julian's voice cracked as he stood in the hospital conference room, his hands trembling at his sides. The man who commanded boardrooms with absolute authority now looked like he was coming apart at the seams. Vanessa turned on him, 5 years of buried pain erupting to the surface. Tell you? You threw me out of your life, Julian. You called me a liar, a gold digger. You had security remove me from your building like I was trash. I didn't know. His face was pale, his eyes wild. If I had known you were pregnant, if I had known there were 3 of them, I never would have. Never would have what? Believed your stepmother's lies? Accused me of cheating? Blocked my number and disappeared? Vanessa. He stepped toward her, but she moved back. You don't get to say my name like that, not after what you did. They're my children. The words came out as barely a whisper. I saw them, Vanessa. Through the window. 3 kids with my face. My eyes. How old are they? 5. She watched him do the math. Watched the realization hit him like a physical blow. They turned 5 3 months ago. Julian's knees buckled, and he caught himself on the edge of the conference table. 5 years. His voice broke completely. I've missed 5 years. We've missed you for exactly 0 days. Vanessa's words were sharp, designed to wound. We built a life without you. A good life. We don't need you now. But I need them. Julian looked up at her and she saw tears streaming down his face. I need you. All of you. Please. The word please from Julian Westbrook's lips should have felt like victory. Instead, it just made Vanessa tired. 5 years tired. You lost that right when you chose to believe the worst about me. Have you ever made a decision that changed everything? A choice that haunted you every single day for years, whispering what if in the quiet moments. What would you do if the person you wronged was raising your children in secret and had every reason to never forgive you? This is the story of Vanessa Carter and Julian Westbrook, of 3 children who became the bridge between 2 broken hearts, of a billionaire CEO who discovered that all his wealth meant nothing compared to what he had lost, and of a woman who had to decide whether the man who shattered her heart deserved to know his children. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will take you on an emotional journey you'll never forget. The morning started like every other morning in Vanessa Carter's small Seattle apartment. Chaos wrapped in love, held together by coffee and determination. Mommy, Ethan took my blue crayon. Lily's voice carried from the bedroom where the triplets were supposed to be getting dressed. I didn't take it. You left it in the living room. Ethan's response was matter-of-fact, already displaying the logical mind that reminded Vanessa so much of his father. Can someone help me find my other shoe? Mason called out, his voice muffled like he was currently upside down searching under his bed. Vanessa stood at the stove, flipping pancakes with the practiced efficiency of a single mother who had been doing this alone for 5 years. She glanced at the clock on the microwave. 7:15. They had exactly 30 minutes before the school bus arrived. Lily, check the couch cushions. Ethan, help your brother, please. And everyone needs to be dressed in 10 minutes, or we're having breakfast in our pajamas at school. The threat, empty as it was, produced the desired effect. Sounds of accelerated movement came from the bedroom. Vanessa plated the pancakes, adding a small amount of syrup to each. Not too much, or they would be bouncing off the walls all day. She had learned that lesson the hard way during their 3rd birthday party, when she had been too permissive with the sugar. The triplets tumbled into the kitchen area. The apartment was small, just 2 bedrooms with an open living space, but it was theirs. Every piece of furniture had been chosen carefully, most of it secondhand but sturdy. The walls were covered with the children's artwork, their handprints in paint, their school photos. This place held 5 years of memories built from nothing but determination and love. Ethan reached the table first. At 5 years old, he was already showing signs of being the protector of his siblings. He had his father's dark hair and those distinctive gray-blue eyes that Vanessa saw every time she looked at any of her children. He was serious for his age, always thinking, always observing. Lily came next, her dark curls bouncing as she climbed into her chair. She was the artist of the 3, always drawing or painting or creating something. She had a sensitivity that made her cry at sad movies and rescue insects from the apartment to release them outside. She wore mismatched socks, purple and green today, because she said matching socks were boring. Mason arrived last, one shoe on and the other in his hand, grinning like he had won a prize. He was pure energy, curious about everything, asking questions that sometimes Vanessa had to look up on her phone to answer. He was the one most likely to take things apart to see how they worked, which had resulted in the death of 2 alarm clocks and a remote control. "Did you all brush your teeth?" Vanessa asked, setting their plates in front of them. "Yes, Mommy." The chorus came in unison, though she noticed Mason's guilty expression suggested he might be stretching the truth. Mason. She gave him the look, the one that said she knew. He sighed dramatically and slid off his chair. "Fine. But I did it yesterday, so my teeth should still be clean." Vanessa hid her smile as he trudged to the bathroom. "That's not how teeth work, buddy." While the children ate, Vanessa packed their lunches. 3 identical lunch boxes, each labeled with their names. Sandwiches cut into triangles because Mason refused to eat them any other way. Apple slices with a touch of lemon juice to keep them from browning. A small bag of crackers. A juice box. 1 cookie each. Homemade on Sunday because it was cheaper than buying packages. She had this routine down to a science. Had to. As a nurse at Seattle Grace Hospital, her shifts were long and demanding. She worked 3 12-hour shifts a week, sometimes picking up extra shifts when money was tight. Her mother Gloria helped with childcare when she could, and Mrs. Patterson from downstairs babysat on Vanessa's work days. It was a carefully constructed house of cards that required everything to go right. The bus arrived at 7:45 exactly. Vanessa walked the triplets down to the street, kissing each of them goodbye. Ethan hugged her waist tightly, like he always did. "Love you, Mommy." "Love you more, baby." Lily presented her with a drawing she had made that morning. "It's you. You're the one with the smile." "It's beautiful, sweetheart. I'll put it on the fridge when I get home." Mason was already halfway up the bus steps before he remembered to wave. "Bye, Mommy. See you after school." She watched the bus pull away. The same ache in her chest that appeared every morning. They were getting so big. In a few months they would start kindergarten. Where had the time gone? Vanessa walked back to the apartment, gathering her things for work. She had the early shift today, 7 to 7. 12 hours on her feet in the emergency room. It was exhausting work, but she loved it. Helping people. Making a difference. Using her skills for something that mattered. She caught her reflection in the mirror by the door as she grabbed her bag. At 29, she looked older than she should. There were lines around her eyes from too many sleepless nights with sick children or just the weight of doing everything alone. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail. She wore scrubs, dark blue with her hospital ID badge clipped to the pocket. For just a moment, she let herself remember the girl she had been 5 years ago. Engaged to Julian Westbrook, planning a wedding. Dreaming of a future that had seemed bright and full of possibility. That girl had worn designer clothes that Julian insisted on buying her. That girl had laughed freely and believed in fairy tales. That girl had died the night Julian had called her a liar. Vanessa locked the door behind her and headed to the bus stop. She had stopped driving 2 years ago when her car finally gave up. It was cheaper to use public transportation anyway. The number 12 bus took her directly to the hospital. The morning commute was peaceful. She used the time to mentally prepare for the day ahead. Emergency room nursing required you to be ready for anything. Heart attacks, car accidents, sick children, traumatic injuries. You never knew what would come through those doors. Seattle Grace Hospital rose ahead of her, a massive complex of glass and steel. She had worked here for 6 years, starting as a new graduate just before she met Julian. Back then she had been in the pediatric unit. After the triplets were born, she had transferred to the ER. Better pay, more opportunities for overtime. "Hey Vanessa," Rachel intercepted her at the staff entrance. Rachel Chen was her best friend, had been since nursing school. She was one of the few people who knew the whole truth about Julian. "Please tell me you brought coffee." Vanessa held up the thermos she had filled at home. "Always. You're my favorite person." Rachel fell into step beside her as they headed to the locker room. "We've got a full board already. 3 MVAs from a pileup on I-5, chest pain in room 4, and a kid who stuck a bead up his nose in room 7. So, a normal Thursday. Vanessa stowed her bag in her locker and grabbed her stethoscope. Oh, and Dr. Martinez is in one of his moods. So, avoid him if possible. Noted. The shift started at a run and never slowed down. Vanessa moved from room to room, triaging patients, starting IVs, administering medications, assisting with procedures. This was where she excelled. In the controlled chaos of the emergency room, there was no time to think about the past or worry about the future. There was only the next patient, the next crisis, the next life to help save. At 11:30, she was charting notes at the nurse's station when the trauma alert sounded. Incoming trauma. ETA 3 minutes. Motor vehicle accident. Male, approximately 35 years old. Unrestrained driver. Significant front-end damage. Patient unconscious at scene. GCS 8. Possible head injury. Multiple contusions. Suspected internal bleeding. Vanessa's training kicked in immediately. She headed to the trauma bay with the rest of the team, pulling on protective gear. Dr. Sarah Kim, the trauma surgeon, was already there reviewing the incoming information. Okay, people, we've got a serious head injury coming in. Vanessa, you're primary nurse. Let's get ready for a full trauma protocol. The ambulance doors burst open and the paramedics rushed in, pushing the gurney at a run. They were doing CPR, one paramedic doing compressions while another squeezed the bag mask. Patient went into arrest en route. We've been doing compressions for 4 minutes. Get him on the table, Dr. Kim ordered. Continue compressions. Someone get me an airway. Vanessa moved into position, her hands already reaching for the IV supplies. She had done this 100 times. Stay focused. Follow protocol. Don't think, just act. The paramedics transferred the patient to the trauma table. Blood covered his face and clothes. His dark hair was matted with it. She couldn't see his features clearly, but something about him made her pause. Vanessa, I need that IV. Dr. Kim's voice snapped her back. She shook off the strange feeling and focused on finding a vein. The compressions made it difficult, but she had the touch. IV in? First try. Good. Get me 2 units of O negative and push the trauma panel. Vanessa hung the blood, her movements automatic, but her eyes kept being drawn to the patient's face. One of the other nurses was cleaning away the blood, and as his features became visible, the world tilted. No. It couldn't be. Dark hair, strong jaw, the aristocratic nose that she used to trace with her finger. Even unconscious and injured, even after 5 years, she would know that face anywhere. Julian. The IV bag slipped from her fingers. It hit the floor with a wet splat, blood spraying across the tile. Vanessa. Dr. Kim looked over sharply. You okay? Vanessa couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what she was seeing. Julian Westbrook, the man she had loved and lost, the father of her children, was lying on the trauma table in front of her, his life hanging by a thread. I need you focused, Nurse Carter. Dr. Kim's voice was firm. Can you continue, or do I need someone else? The question penetrated the shock. Vanessa was a professional. Whatever her personal feelings, she had a job to do. She grabbed another blood bag with shaking hands. I'm good. I'm focused. The next 20 minutes were the longest of her life. They intubated Julian, getting control of his airway. They transfused blood, trying to stabilize his pressure. They scanned him, looking for internal bleeding. All the while, Vanessa worked alongside the team, doing her job, but dying inside. This was Julian, the man who had called her a liar and thrown her away. The man whose children she had raised alone. The man she had loved with everything in her and who had broken her completely. And she was watching him die. His pressure is dropping. The monitor alarm shrieked its warning. He's bleeding somewhere. Dr. Kim snapped. Get me a portable ultrasound. Vanessa grabbed the machine, her hands steadier than she felt. Dr. Kim scanned quickly, efficiently, looking for free fluid that would indicate internal hemorrhage. There, spleen. He needs surgery now. Call the OR and tell them we're coming up. Everyone stay with me. They rushed Julian out of the ER toward the surgical floor. Vanessa stayed with the gurney, one hand on the IV pole, keeping pace. At the surgical suite doors, Dr. Kim stopped her. This is where you stop, Vanessa. We've got him from here. Vanessa nodded, stepping back. But as they pushed Julian through the doors, his eyes fluttered open. Just for a second. Just long enough for him to see her face. Vanessa. Her name on his lips. Barely a whisper. But she heard it. Then he was gone. The doors swinging shut between them. Vanessa stood in the empty hallway, her entire body shaking. She had prepared for a lot of things in her life. Single motherhood, financial struggles, the challenges of raising triplets alone. She had never prepared for this. Vanessa, are you okay? Rachel appeared at her elbow, concern written all over her face. You look like you've seen a ghost. Vanessa turned to her friend, the only person who would understand the magnitude of what had just happened. That patient. The trauma that just went up to surgery. What about him? That was Julian. Vanessa's voice cracked on his name. That was Julian Westbrook. Rachel's eyes went wide. Oh my God. Are you sure? I spent 2 years with that man. I was engaged to marry him. I know his face. Rachel grabbed her arm, steering her toward an empty consultation room. Okay, let's think about this. He doesn't know about the kids, right? You never told him? I tried. Vanessa sank into a chair, her head in her hands. I tried to tell him. I called. He blocked my number. I went to his office. Security threw me out. I sent a letter. It came back unopened. Eventually, I just stopped trying. So he has no idea he has 3 children. No idea. The 2 women sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the situation settling over them. What are you going to do? Rachel asked finally. What can I do? Vanessa looked up, tears threatening. He's in surgery. He might not even make it. And if he does, what then? Do I just walk into his room and say, oh, by the way, remember me, the woman you destroyed? You have triplets. Vanessa, he has a right to know his kids. He had a right 5 years ago. He threw it away when he believed I was a cheating gold digger. Rachel winced. Fair point. But Vanessa, those kids also have a right to know their father. The words hit hard because they were true. Ethan, Lily, and Mason had asked about their father. She had showed them the one photo she kept, told them that sometimes people can't be together, but that didn't mean they weren't loved. It was the best answer she could give when they were too young to understand the complicated truth. But now, the truth was upstairs in an operating room, fighting for his life. I need to get back to work. Vanessa stood up, wiping her eyes. I can't think about this right now. Do you want me to follow his case? Rachel offered. I can keep you updated without you having to be directly involved. Vanessa nodded gratefully. Thank you. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. She went through the motions, caring for patients, but her mind was upstairs in that operating room. Was Julian going to survive? Part of her, the part that still carried the scars of his betrayal, almost hoped he wouldn't. It would be easier that way. No confrontations, no explanations, no risk of him disrupting the life she had built for her children. But another part, the part she tried to keep buried, remembered loving him, remembered his laugh, the way he would pull her close in the middle of the night, the dreams they had shared. That part wanted him to live. At 3 in the afternoon, Rachel found her. He's out of surgery. They removed his spleen and repaired some internal bleeding. Dr. Kim says he should make a full recovery. Vanessa nodded, unsure if what she felt was relief or dread. There's more. Rachel bit her lip. He's asking for you. What? He woke up in recovery, and apparently the first word out of his mouth was your name. The recovery nurse called down asking if we had a Vanessa Carter on staff. He remembers me. Apparently very clearly. Rachel studied her carefully. You don't have to go up there. You can tell them you're busy. I'll cover for you. Vanessa thought about it. The easy way out. Right there. But when had she ever taken the easy way? What room is he in? Surgical ICU. Bed 3. But Vanessa, be careful. You don't owe him anything. Vanessa took the elevator to the surgical floor. Her heart hammered against her ribs. 5 years. 5 years since she had seen Julian Westbrook. And now she was about to walk into his hospital room. The SICU was quiet. The lights dimmed. She checked in at the nurse's station and they waved her toward bed 3. The curtain was partially drawn. Vanessa stood outside for a moment, gathering her courage. Then she pushed the curtain aside and stepped in. Julian was awake. His head turned toward the window. He looked pale, diminished in the hospital bed. So different from the powerful man she remembered. There were monitors beeping steadily, IV lines running into his arms. A nasal cannula provided oxygen. He turned his head at the sound of her footsteps. When he saw her, his entire face transformed. Vanessa. Her name was a prayer, a plea, a question all at once. You're real. I thought I imagined you. She stood at the foot of his bed, keeping distance between them. You called for me. I saw you. In the ER, before surgery. He tried to sit up and winced, the pain stopping him. I've been looking for you for years. How are you here? I work here. I was your trauma nurse. Of all the hospitals, all the emergency rooms. He laughed, then gasped at the pain it caused. Sorry. Still hurts to laugh. You had major surgery. You should rest. Julian shook his head slightly. I can't rest. Not now. Not when you're finally here in front of me. Vanessa, I need to talk to you. I need to explain what happened. There's nothing to explain, Julian. You made yourself very clear 5 years ago. I was wrong. The words came fast. Desperate. Everything I said, everything I believed, it was all lies. Vivian and Derek, they set you up, fabricated evidence. I found out the truth 2 years ago, and I've been trying to find you ever since. Vanessa felt her carefully constructed walls starting to crack. She couldn't do this. Not here. Not now. I should go. You need to rest. Please, don't leave. Julian's voice broke. Please, just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Against her better judgment, Vanessa moved closer to the bed. She stayed standing, ready to run if necessary. You have 5 minutes. I know I hurt you. Julian's eyes, those gray-blue eyes she saw every day in her children's faces, were bright with unshed tears. I know I said terrible things. I believed you had betrayed me, and I lashed out. But Vanessa, you have to understand, my father had just died. I was grief-stricken and not thinking clearly. Vivian used that. She showed me fabricated photos of you with another man. Fake credit card statements suggesting you were spending my money. A recording that sounded like you admitting to using me. Vanessa's hands clenched into fists. And you believed all of it without even asking me. I know. It's unforgivable. But I was 27 years old, running a company I wasn't ready to run, grieving my father, and terrified of being used. So, when they presented me with evidence, I believed it. I wanted to believe it because it was easier than facing my own inadequacies. That doesn't make it okay. I know it doesn't. Nothing makes it okay. Julian reached out his hand toward her, but didn't try to touch her. When I found out the truth, when Derek confessed in a drunken rage that they had set you up to get you away from me, I lost my mind. I fired Derek immediately, cut Vivian off completely, and then I started looking for you. Vanessa felt tears on her cheeks, but didn't wipe them away. You could have looked harder. Your apartment was empty. Your phone was disconnected. Your friends, the ones I could find, said they didn't know where you went. It was like you vanished completely. Because I wanted to vanish. She met his gaze directly. You destroyed me, Julian. You took everything I believed about us and you burned it down. So yes, I made sure you couldn't find me. I couldn't handle seeing you again. The monitor beeped steadily in the silence that followed. Julian's voice was barely a whisper when he spoke again. Did you move on? Is there someone else? This was it. The moment where she could tell him the truth or walk away. Vanessa thought of Ethan, Lily, and Mason. Thought of their sweet faces, their questions about their father, their right to know where they came from. But the wounds were still too fresh, even after 5 years. My personal life isn't your concern anymore, Julian. You're my patient right now, nothing more. You need to rest and heal. That's all that matters. She turned to go. Vanessa, wait. She paused at the curtain but didn't turn around. I never stopped loving you. Julian's voice was raw with emotion. Not for a single day in 5 years. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I have no right to ask for another chance, but I'm asking anyway. Please, can we just talk? Really talk? Vanessa's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and saw Mrs. Patterson's number. Her blood ran cold. Mrs. Patterson never called during the day unless something was wrong. I have to take this, she answered quickly. Mrs. Patterson, is everything okay? The elderly woman's voice was shaky. I'm so sorry, dear. I had a fall. I'm all right, just shaken. But I can't watch the children today. They're still at school, but I won't be able to pick them up. Panic gripped Vanessa's chest. Her shift didn't end until 7. The school closed at 6. Her mother was out of town visiting Vanessa's aunt. Okay, don't worry about it. I'll figure something out. Are you sure you're okay? Do you need me to send someone? No. My daughter is coming. I'm fine. Just my pride hurt more than anything. But the children? I'm so sorry. It's okay. Feel better. Vanessa hung up and immediately called Rachel. Rachel answered on the second ring. What's up? Emergency. My sitter fell. I need someone to pick up the kids from school at 3:30. Can you do it? I'm stuck in the ER until 5. What about your mom? Out of town. Vanessa ran through her mental list of backup options. They were all at work or unavailable. What about bringing them here? Rachel suggested. They can wait in the staff lounge until your shift ends. Vanessa hesitated. She hated bringing the children to the hospital. It was her workspace, separate from her mom's space. But what choice did she have? Okay, can you pick them up? I'll owe you forever. Already on it. I'll get someone to cover my break and head out now. You're a lifesaver. Vanessa hung up and realized Julian had been listening to the entire conversation. His expression was confused, curious. You have children? Her heart stopped. This was not how this was supposed to happen. Not here. Not like this. I need to go. She fled before he could ask any more questions. The rest of her shift was a nightmare of anxiety. She kept checking her phone, waiting for Rachel's text that she had the kids. At 3:45, it came. Got all 3 of them. We're heading to the hospital. They're asking questions about why we're visiting your work. Vanessa sent back a quick thanks and tried to focus on her patients. At 4:30, she headed up to the staff lounge on the 3rd floor. The moment she opened the door, 3 voices called out in unison. Mommy! Ethan, Lily, and Mason rushed toward her, and she knelt to embrace all 3 of them at once, breathing in their familiar scent, letting their presence ground her. Why are we at your hospital, Mommy? Mason asked, his curious eyes wide. Mrs. Patterson had an accident, so Aunt Rachel picked you up. We're going to hang out here until my shift is over, okay? Is Mrs. Patterson okay? Lily asked, her sensitive nature showing immediately. She's fine, sweetheart. Just a little fall. Can we see where you work? Ethan's question was practical, informational. Maybe another time. Right now, I need you 3 to stay right here in this room. You can watch shows on the tablet, okay? She got them settled with snacks in the tablet, kissed each of them one more time, and headed back down to the ER. Rachel met her at the nurse's station. They're adorable. They're a handful. That's what makes them adorable. Rachel glanced around, then lowered her voice. Julian Westbrook's been asking about you. He called down 3 times. What did you tell him? That you were busy with patients. Rachel paused. Vanessa, you're going to have to deal with this. He's not going to stop asking questions. I know. Vanessa rubbed her temples where a headache was forming. I just need to figure out how to handle it. What she didn't know was that fate was about to take the choice out of her hands. At 6:15, Vanessa was in the supply room, restocking her bag when her phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. 911. Julian is out of his room. He's walking around the hospital. Vanessa's blood ran cold. She ran toward the elevators, frantically pressing the button. Julian had just had major surgery. He shouldn't be walking anywhere. The elevator seemed to take forever. When she finally reached the 3rd floor, she ran toward the SICU. But Julian wasn't in his bed. Where is Mr. Westbrook? She demanded of the nurse on duty. He said he needed to stretch his legs. The nurse looked unconcerned. We can't keep surgical patients in bed all the time. He's a flight risk. Vanessa ran back to the hallway, looking both ways. Which way did he go? Toward the West Wing, I think. The West Wing, where the staff lounge was located, where her children were waiting. No. Vanessa ran, her heart pounding. She rounded the corner and saw Julian standing outside the staff lounge, looking through the window in the door. He turned when he heard her footsteps. His face was pale from the exertion of walking. but his expression was one of absolute shock. "Vanessa." His voice shook. "Those children in there. I saw them through the window." She knew what he had seen. Knew exactly what had given him away. All three of her children had inherited Julian's distinctive features. The dark hair, the gray-blue eyes, the shape of the face. Julian. She tried to think of something to say, some explanation that would make this okay, but he was already pushing past her, opening the door to the lounge. Three small faces looked up at him. Mason smiled. Ethan was immediately protective, moving in front of his siblings. Lily tilted her head, studying the stranger. Julian stood frozen in the doorway. Vanessa watched him look from one child to the next, saw the exact moment he counted and recounted, making absolutely sure. 3. His voice was barely audible. "You have 3 children." The children looked to their mother, confused by this pale man in a hospital gown staring at them. Vanessa moved quickly, putting herself between Julian and her kids. "You need to leave. Right now." "How old are they?" Julian asked, his eyes never leaving the triplets. "That's none of your business." Ethan stood up. "Mommy, who is this?" Julian's eyes locked onto Ethan, and Vanessa saw him see it. The resemblance. The undeniable genetic connection. "Oh my God." Julian staggered backward and caught himself on the doorframe. "They're mine. Those are my children." If this story is hitting you right now, if you can feel the weight of this moment, I need you to do something for me. Hit that like button and let me know you're invested in this journey. Subscribe to Cedar Drama because we're just getting started. And what happens next is going to take you on an emotional ride you won't forget. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think Julian deserves to know his children? Or did he lose that right 5 years ago? I read every comment, and your thoughts matter to this community. Now, let's continue, because the conversation that's about to happen will change everything. Mason had climbed off the couch and walked right up to Julian, his natural curiosity overriding any sense of stranger danger. "Are you sick? Is that why you're wearing that gown?" Julian looked down at the small boy, his son, and his eyes filled with tears. "I was hurt, but I'm getting better." "Did you have surgery?" Mason's eyes were wide. "My friend Tyler had surgery on his arm and he got a cool scar." "I did have surgery." Julian's voice was shaking. "On my stomach." "Can I see the scar?" "Mason, no." Vanessa finally found her voice. "Come here, baby." But Lily had stood up too, her artist's eyes studying Julian's face. "You have the same eyes as us." Vanessa felt the ground disappearing beneath her feet. This was happening too fast. She wasn't ready. The children weren't ready. "Kids, I need you to go with Aunt Rachel for a minute. She'll take you to get ice cream from the cafeteria." Rachel, who had appeared in the hallway, immediately understood. "Come on, you 3. I hear they have chocolate today." But Ethan wasn't moving. He was looking between Julian and his mother, his sharp mind already putting pieces together. "Mommy, is he our dad?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Lily gasped. Mason's mouth fell open. Julian made a sound like he had been punched. Vanessa looked at her oldest son, the one who had always been too perceptive for his own good, and knew she couldn't lie. "Not about this. Not anymore." "Yes." Her voice was barely a whisper. "He is." The confirmation hit Julian like a physical force. His legs gave out and he sank to his knees right there in the hallway. Vanessa moved instinctively to catch him, but Rachel was faster, supporting him before he could fall completely. "We need to get him back to his room," Rachel said urgently. "He just had major surgery." Julian wasn't paying attention to any of them. His eyes were locked on the 3 children standing in the doorway of the staff lounge, staring at him with varying expressions of shock and curiosity. "I have 3 children." The words came out broken, disbelieving. 3. How did I not know? How could you not tell me? "Rachel, please." Vanessa's voice was firm. "Take them for ice cream. Now." Rachel herded the confused and protesting children toward the elevator. Vanessa could hear their questions echoing down the hall. "Is that really our dad? Why is he here? Why didn't we know about him?" The elevator doors closed, and Vanessa was left alone with Julian, who was still on his knees in the hospital corridor, looking like his entire world had just been turned inside out. "You need to get back to bed." She kept her voice clinical, professional. You're going to tear your sutures. I don't care about the sutures. Julian looked up at her, and she saw anguish written across his face. Vanessa, please, tell me how this happened. Tell me why I didn't know. Not here. She glanced around at the staff members who were starting to notice the commotion. Can you walk? He nodded, and she helped him to his feet, supporting his weight as they made their way back to his room in the SICU. Once the curtain was closed around them, once they had the illusion of privacy, Julian sank onto the edge of the bed. Talk to me. His voice was raw. Please. Vanessa crossed her arms, putting up every defensive barrier she had. What do you want me to say, Julian? I want you to explain how I have 3 5-year-old children that I knew nothing about. You want me to explain? The anger she had been suppressing for 5 years started to bubble up. You want me to explain how the man who called me a liar and a gold digger might have missed the fact that I was pregnant with his children? I didn't know you were pregnant when we broke up. Julian's voice was desperate. You never told me. Because I didn't know yet. Vanessa's hands were shaking. I found out 3 weeks after you threw me out of your life. Then why didn't you call me? I did call you. She stepped closer, years of hurt spilling out. I called and you had blocked my number. I went to your office, and your security team physically removed me from the building. I sent you a letter and it came back unopened. I tried, Julian. I tried to tell you, and you made it impossible. He paled even further. Vivian. She must have intercepted everything. It doesn't matter who did it, Vanessa's voice broke. The point is, you believed the worst about me. You didn't trust me. You didn't even give me a chance to defend myself. So when I found out I was pregnant, when I saw that ultrasound screen and there were 3 heartbeats instead of 1, I made a choice. What choice? To protect my children from someone who could throw away the person they supposedly loved based on lies. Julian flinched, like she had struck him. Our children. They're our children, Vanessa. No. She shook her head firmly. They're my children. I'm the one who carried them for 8 months. I'm the one who gave birth to them 5 weeks early and watched them fight for every breath in the NICU. I'm the one who's been there for every fever, every nightmare, every scraped knee. Me. Alone. You don't get to claim them now just because fate put you in the same hospital where I work? But I didn't know. Julian stood up despite the pain it clearly caused him. Vanessa, if I had known, everything would have been different. Would it? She challenged him. Would you have believed they were yours? Or would Vivian have convinced you I got pregnant on purpose to trap you? The question clearly hit home because Julian couldn't answer. That's what I thought. Vanessa moved toward the curtain. You need to rest. And I need to get back to my children. My children, Julian. The ones I've raised for 5 years without you. His hand caught her wrist. Gentle but firm. Please don't go. Not yet. She looked down at his hand on her arm, and memories flooded back. Those hands had held her, comforted her, promised her forever. Those same hands had pushed her away when she needed them most. Let go. Just answer me one thing. Julian's eyes searched hers. Did you ever try to find me after you stopped trying to contact me directly? In 5 years, did you ever think about telling me every single day? The admission came out before she could stop it. Every time Ethan asks why he doesn't have a dad like his friends. Every time Lily draws a picture of our family and leaves a space empty. Every time Mason wonders out loud what his father is like. I think about it. But then I remember how it felt when you looked at me like I was garbage. And I know I made the right choice to protect them. She pulled her arm free from his grasp. I have to go. My shift ends in 20 minutes and my kids need me. Vanessa, wait. She paused at the curtain but didn't turn around. What are their names? Julian's voice was thick with emotion. Please, at least tell me their names. She took a breath, steadying herself. Ethan, Lily, Mason. They're 5 years old. They love art and science and asking impossible questions. They're smart and funny and kind. And they're perfect without you. Then she walked out, leaving Julian alone with the knowledge that he had 3 children he had never known and a chance at a family he had destroyed 5 years ago. Vanessa made it to the elevator before the tears started falling. 5 years of holding everything together, of being strong, of protecting her babies from the truth. And now it had all come crashing down in one impossible afternoon. The elevator doors opened on the ground floor and she headed straight for the cafeteria. She found Rachel and the triplets at a corner table, 3 half-eaten ice cream cups in front of them. All 3 children looked up as she approached. Their faces, Julian's faces, so full of questions she didn't know how to answer. "Mommy," Lily's voice was small. "Is that man really our daddy?" Vanessa slid into the booth next to Rachel and gathered her courage. "Yes, sweetheart, he is." Mason bounced in his seat with excitement. "So we have a dad now? Like a real dad?" "It's more complicated than that, buddy." But Ethan, always the serious one, had the question that mattered most. Why didn't we know about him before? This was the conversation Vanessa had been dreading for 5 years. She had practiced speeches in her head, planned age-appropriate explanations, but none of them seemed right now, sitting in a hospital cafeteria with 3 pairs of Julian's eyes staring at her expectantly. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. She chose her words carefully. "Your dad and I, we loved each other very much. But something happened, and we stopped being together. That happened before I knew you 3 were going to be born. Did he know about us?" Ethan's question was direct, logical. Vanessa's throat tightened. "No, baby, he didn't know." "Why didn't you tell him?" Lily asked, her sensitive nature picking up on the tension. "I tried, but it was complicated." Vanessa felt Rachel's supportive hand on her shoulder. "Sometimes when people are hurt, they make choices that don't make sense later. I thought I was protecting you." "From what?" Mason tilted his head in confusion. "From being disappointed." The honesty spilled out before she could stop it. "I was scared that if your dad knew about you, he might not want you. And I couldn't bear the thought of you feeling rejected like I felt rejected." The 3 children processed this information with varying reactions. Mason seemed satisfied with the explanation and returned to his ice cream. Lily looked sad, her empathetic heart breaking for her mother. But Ethan's expression was harder to read. "Does he want us now?" Ethan asked quietly. "Now that he knows?" Vanessa thought about Julian's face when he saw the children through the window. The absolute devastation and wonder mixed together. The tears in his eyes as he knelt on the floor. The desperate plea for answers. "I think so," she said honestly. "But baby, wanting and being ready are 2 different things." Rachel squeezed her shoulder. "Why don't we head home? It's been a long day for everyone." The bus ride home was quiet. The triplets were tired and processing everything that had happened. Vanessa stared out the window, her mind spinning. Everything had changed in the space of a few hours. The secret she had kept so carefully was now exposed. Julian knew. The children knew. And tomorrow she would have to figure out what came next. At home, the bedtime routine was subdued. The children brushed their teeth and put on pajamas without their usual chaos. Vanessa read them a story. All 3 of them piled into Ethan's bed like they did when they needed extra comfort. "Mommy," Mason said as she was turning off the light. "Will we see our dad again?" "I don't know, honey. Probably." "Good." Mason yawned. "I liked him. He seemed sad, though." After the children were asleep, Vanessa sat in the living room with a glass of wine she desperately needed. Her phone was on the coffee table, silent but somehow menacing. She knew Julian had her number now. He could call any time, could demand to see the children, could turn her entire life upside down. The phone buzzed and she jumped. But it was just Rachel. "How are you holding up?" Vanessa typed back quickly. "I've been better. Thanks for today. You're a lifesaver." "Anytime." "What are you going to do about Julian?" That was the question, wasn't it? What was she going to do? She couldn't keep the children from him, not now that they knew he existed. But could she trust him? Could she let him into their lives knowing he had the power to destroy them all over again? Her phone buzzed again. Another text, but this time from an unknown number. "It's Julian. One of the nurses gave me your number. I hope that's okay. I know you probably don't want to talk to me, but I need to see them again. Please. I'm begging you. Give me a chance to be their father." Vanessa stared at the message for a long time. 5 years ago, she would have given anything to hear those words. But now, with 3 vulnerable hearts at stake, those words terrified her. She typed and deleted several responses before finally settling on one. "We need to talk. But not tonight. I'll come by the hospital tomorrow during my break. We'll figure this out like adults." His response came immediately. "Thank you. I know I don't deserve this chance. I won't waste it." Vanessa set the phone down and closed her eyes. She had no idea if she was making the right choice. All she knew was that Ethan, Lily, and Mason deserved to know their father, even if that father had once broken their mother's heart into 1,000 pieces. Tomorrow would bring answers. Or maybe just more questions. But either way, the carefully constructed life Vanessa had built for 5 years was never going to be the same again. And somewhere in the surgical ICU, Julian Westbrook lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about 3 children with his eyes and the woman he had never stopped loving. He had been given an impossible gift and an unforgivable truth all at once. He had 3 children, and he had missed every moment of their lives. But if Vanessa would let him, if she could find it in her heart to give him even the smallest chance, he would spend the rest of his life making up for the years he had lost. The next morning, Vanessa dropped the triplets at school with extra long hugs. They had asked more questions at breakfast, excited questions about their dad that made her heart ache. She had promised them that she would talk to him today, that they would figure everything out together. Now, walking into Seattle Grace Hospital for her shift, that promise felt impossibly heavy. She worked the morning in a fog of anxiety, going through the motions but unable to focus. At 11:30, she took her break and headed up to the surgical ICU. Julian was awake when she arrived, sitting up in bed with a tablet in his lap, but the moment he saw her, he set it aside. His eyes, those impossible eyes that she saw every day in her children's faces, were red-rimmed like he hadn't slept. "Thank you for coming." His voice was rough. Vanessa pulled up a chair but kept it at a distance from the bed. "We need to establish some ground rules." "Okay." Julian nodded quickly. "Whatever you need. First, you don't get to just walk into their lives and disrupt everything I've built." Vanessa kept her tone firm, professional. They're 5 years old. They don't understand complicated adult situations. Whatever we do it slowly, and we do it with their emotional well-being as the priority. "I agree completely." "Second, I'm their mother. I make the final decisions about their welfare. You can have input, but you don't get to override me just because you have money or power or influence." Julian flinched. "I would never try to take them from you." "Good, because I'll tell you right now, if you try, you'll lose. I have 5 years of documentation proving I'm a good mother. You have a hospital bed and a guilty conscience." The words were harsh, but necessary. Vanessa needed him to understand that she wasn't the same naive girl he had discarded 5 years ago. She had become a mother, a fighter, someone who would protect her children at any cost. "I don't want to fight you, Vanessa." Julian's voice was quiet. "I just want to know them, to be part of their lives. Whatever that looks like, I'll accept it." She studied him carefully, looking for signs of manipulation or hidden agendas. But all she saw was genuine remorse and desperate hope. "They asked about you this morning," she said finally. "They want to know when they can see you again." Julian's face lit up. "Really?" "Don't get too excited." Vanessa held up a hand. "They're curious. That's all. They've never had a father before, so the concept is exciting. But excitement fades, Julian. What happens when the novelty wears off, and they're just 3 kids who need consistency and stability? Then I'll be there. Consistently. Stably." He leaned forward despite the obvious pain it caused. "I know I don't deserve this chance, but I'm not going to waste it." Vanessa took a deep breath. "Okay, here's what I'm willing to do. You're stuck in this hospital for at least another week. During that time, I'll bring the kids to visit. Short visits, supervised. You can get to know each other in a controlled environment." "Thank you." The relief in Julian's voice was palpable. "But Julian, I need you to understand something." Vanessa met his gaze directly. "If you hurt them, if you disappoint them, if you decide this is too hard and you walk away, I will never forgive you. And neither will they. I won't walk away. You did before." The accusation hung between them like a wall of glass. Transparent but impenetrable. "That was different," Julian said quietly. "I thought I was walking away from a lie. If I had known the truth, if I had known about them, nothing could have kept me away." "But you should have known the truth." Vanessa felt her carefully controlled emotions starting to crack. You should have listened to me. Should have trusted me. Should have given me the benefit of the doubt instead of believing the worst. I know, Julian's voice broke. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Vanessa. If I could go back and change everything, I would. But I can't. All I can do is try to be better now. Vanessa stood up abruptly. I'll bring them tomorrow. After school, 3:30. Can I ask you something? Julian stopped her before she could leave. What are they like? I know you told me their names, but what are they really like? Despite herself, despite all the hurt and anger, Vanessa felt a small smile. Ethan is the oldest by 2 minutes, and he never lets the other two forget it. He's serious, thoughtful. He reads at a second grade level already. He's protective of his siblings, especially Lily. Julian smiled. He sounds like you. Lily is my artist, Vanessa continued. She sees the world in colors and shapes. She's sensitive, empathetic. She cries when she sees hurt animals. She makes friends with everyone. She's pure heart. And Mason? Mason is chaos in human form. Vanessa laughed despite herself. He takes everything apart to see how it works. He asks a million questions. He has more energy than should be physically possible. But he's also the snuggler, the one who still wants to hold my hand everywhere we go. They sound incredible. Julian's voice was thick with emotion. They are. And Julian, that's why I need you to understand what's at stake here. These aren't just abstract concepts. They're 3 real people, with feelings and needs. If you're going to do this, you have to be all in. I am. I promise you, I am. Vanessa nodded and left, before he could see the tears forming in her eyes. Because despite everything, despite all the walls she had built, part of her still remembered loving this man. And watching him get to know their children was going to break open every wound she had spent 5 years trying to heal. That afternoon, Vanessa sat the triplets down at the kitchen table with juice boxes and graham crackers, their after-school snack, but today it came with a conversation that would change everything. Okay guys, we need to talk about your dad. 3 faces looked up at her with varying expressions of excitement and curiosity. Is he still sick? Lily asked, always concerned about others. He's getting better, but he's going to be in the hospital for a while longer. Vanessa took a breath. He really wants to see you all again. How do you feel about visiting him tomorrow after school? Yes. Mason pumped his fist in the air. Can we bring him something? Tyler brought his dad flowers when he was in the hospital. That's a sweet idea, buddy. But Ethan was quiet, his brow furrowed in thought. Mommy, if he's our dad, where has he been? The question she had been dreading. Vanessa chose her words carefully. Remember how I told you that your dad and I stopped being together before I knew you were coming? All 3 nodded. Well, I tried to tell him about you, but some bad people kept him from getting my messages. So he didn't know about you until yesterday when he saw you at the hospital. So he didn't leave us on purpose? Lily's voice was small. No, sweetheart. He didn't know you existed to leave you. Ethan processed this, but now he knows. So is he going to be our dad now? Like, live with us and stuff? It's more complicated than that. Vanessa struggled for the right explanation. Your dad and I, we're not together. We're not a family in that way. But he does want to be part of your lives. So we'll have 2 houses? Ethan asked. Like my friend Sophie, whose parents are divorced? Something like that. Maybe. We're still figuring it out. Mason seemed satisfied with this explanation and returned to his snack. But Lily had tears in her eyes. Baby, what's wrong? Vanessa pulled her daughter into her lap. I don't want you to be sad, Mommy. Lily's voice quivered. You always look sad when you talk about our dad. Vanessa's heart broke. Oh, sweetheart. I'm not sad about you having a dad. I'm happy for you. I'm just... Grown-up feelings are complicated. Did he make you sad before? Ethan asked, his protective instincts showing. A long time ago, yes. But that's between him and me. It doesn't have anything to do with how he feels about you 3. Are you sure? Ethan pressed. Because if he was mean to you, I don't want him to be our dad. Vanessa gathered all 3 of them close. Listen to me, all of you. What happened between your dad and me? That's our story. You 3 get to write your own story with him. You don't have to be mad at him for me, okay? Okay. But Ethan still looked skeptical. The next afternoon, Vanessa picked up the triplets from school with a bag full of art supplies. Lily had insisted on making a get-well card. Mason wanted to bring the model rocket he had built. Ethan had picked out a book he thought Julian might like. The whole bus ride to the hospital. The children chattered with nervous excitement. Vanessa's own nerves were frayed. This was really happening. She was taking her children to meet their father for the first time in any real way. At the surgical ICU, Julian was waiting. He had clearly made an effort, his hair combed, sitting up in bed wearing a hospital gown, but looking as presentable as possible under the circumstances. When the four of them appeared at his doorway, Julian's face transformed. Wonder, joy, and grief, all mixed together. "Hi!" His voice cracked on the single word. The triplets hung back behind Vanessa, suddenly shy. "It's okay." Vanessa encouraged them gently. "You can say hi." Mason, never one to stay nervous for long, stepped forward first. "I brought you my rocket. I built it myself. Well, Mommy helped with the glue gun because I'm not allowed to use it alone yet." Julian took the offered rocket like it was made of glass. "This is incredible. Did you paint it too?" "Yeah. The red stripes were really hard." "You did an amazing job." Lily approached next, holding out her card. It was covered in drawings of flowers and rainbows. "I made this for you. The flowers are supposed to make you feel better." Julian opened it, and Vanessa could see his hands shaking. Inside, Lily had drawn a picture of 4 stick figures, labeled Mommy, Ethan, Lily, and Mason. Off to the side was a 5th figure by himself, labeled Daddy. "This is the most beautiful card I've ever received." Julian's voice was thick with emotion. "Thank you, Lily." "You're welcome," she smiled shyly. Only Ethan remained by Vanessa's side, studying Julian with serious eyes. "Hi, Ethan," Julian said softly. "I'm really glad you're here." "I brought you a book," Ethan said finally. "It's about space. Mommy says you used to like science." "I love science." Julian accepted the book. "Maybe we could read it together sometime?" Ethan shrugged non-committally. "Maybe." Vanessa intervened gently. "Why don't you guys pull up those chairs and you can talk for a bit?" The next 30 minutes were awkward and sweet and heartbreaking all at once. Mason dominated the conversation, telling Julian about school and his friends and the frog he had found last week. Lily showed him her other drawings, explaining each one in detail. Ethan remained quieter but answered Julian's questions about his favorite subjects and what books he liked to read. Julian listened to every word like it was the most important thing he had ever heard. He asked follow-up questions, laughed at Mason's jokes, admired Lily's art, and respected Ethan's guardedness. Vanessa watched from her position by the door. This was surreal. Her children, the 3 people she loved most in the world, talking to their father like it was the most natural thing. Part of her wanted to grab them and run. Another part wanted to cry at the sight of the family that could have been. "Do you have a house?" Mason asked suddenly. "Can we see it sometime?" Julian glanced at Vanessa for guidance. She gave a slight nod. "I do have a house. It's pretty big. Maybe, if your mom says it's okay, you could visit sometime when I'm all better." "Do you have a dog?" Mason's eyes lit up with hope. "We really want a dog, but Mommy says our apartment is too small." "I don't have a dog yet, but maybe we could look into that." "Julian." Vanessa's voice held a warning. "Don't make promises you're not sure you can keep." "You're right," Julian said immediately. "I don't have a dog right now, but I'd love to talk about the possibility with your mom." Ethan, who had been mostly quiet, suddenly spoke up. "Why didn't you try harder to find us?" The question was direct, challenging. Julian met the 5-year-old's gaze with respect. "That's a really good question, Ethan. The truth is, I did try to find your mom. For a long time. But I should have tried harder. I should have done more. And I'm sorry I didn't." "Did you not want us?" The pain that crossed Julian's face was visceral. "I didn't know about you. If I had known, I would have moved heaven and earth to be part of your lives from the very beginning. But you made Mommy sad." Ethan's protectiveness came through clearly. "I heard her crying sometimes when she thought we were asleep." Julian's eyes met Vanessa's across the room. "I did make your mom sad. I made a terrible mistake, and I hurt her badly. That's something I have to live with. But Ethan, I need you to know that your mom is the strongest, bravest person I've ever known. She raised you 3 all by herself, and she did an incredible job." Ethan considered this. "Are you going to make her sad again?" "I hope not, but if I do, I hope she'll tell me so I can fix it." It seemed to be the right answer because Ethan's posture relaxed slightly. A nurse came in to check Julian's vitals, and Vanessa took it as their cue. "Okay guys, we should let your dad rest." "Already?" Mason whined. "We just got here." "We'll come back," Vanessa promised. "If you want to." 3 heads nodded enthusiastically. "Julian, can I hug you goodbye?" Lily asked shyly. "I would love that." Lily approached carefully, and Julian wrapped his arms around her gently. Mason immediately wanted in on the hug and launched himself at the bed. Julian caught him with a laugh that turned into a wince. "Careful, buddy. Remember Dad's still healing," Vanessa warned. "Sorry," Mason said, but didn't let go. Ethan hung back again, but this time, he offered his hand for a handshake. Julian took it seriously, like he was sealing an important deal. In the hallway, as they waited for the elevator, Lily tugged on Vanessa's sleeve. "I like him, Mommy." "Me too," Mason added. "He's nice." Vanessa looked at Ethan. "What about you?" "He's okay," Ethan said carefully. "We'll see." "That's fair." Vanessa squeezed his shoulder. "You don't have to decide everything right away." Over the next week, they fell into a routine. Vanessa would pick up the triplets from school, and they would visit Julian for 30 to 40 minutes. Each day, the children grew more comfortable. Mason would climb onto the bed to show Julian his latest school project. Lily would bring new drawings. Even Ethan slowly started to warm up, engaging in longer conversations about books and science. Julian was being discharged on Friday, and on Thursday evening, he asked Vanessa to stay after the children went to get snacks from the cafeteria with a nurse. "I've been thinking about next steps," Julian said once they were alone. "I know you said we'd take this slow, but I want to be more involved than just hospital visits." Vanessa had been expecting this conversation. "What did you have in mind?" "I'd like to set up a regular visitation schedule. Maybe weekends to start. I could pick them up Saturday morning and bring them back Sunday afternoon." "Absolutely not." Vanessa's response was immediate. "You've known them for a week, Julian. You're not taking them overnight." He looked stung but nodded. "Okay. What would you be comfortable with?" "Supervised day visits. You can come to our apartment or we can meet at a park, a few hours at a time." "For how long?" "Until I trust that you're not going to disappear the first time, things get difficult." "That's fair," Julian acknowledged. "Can I at least ask where you live, what their school is called, basic information about their lives?" Vanessa hesitated. Every piece of information felt like giving up a bit of control. But he was right. These were reasonable requests. "We live in the Greenwood neighborhood, small 2-bedroom apartment. They go to Greenwood Elementary. They're in Miss Anderson's kindergarten class. What do they like to eat? What are they afraid of? What makes them laugh?" The questions came rapid fire, and Vanessa realized he was trying to catch up on 5 years all at once. Mason loves mac and cheese but refuses to eat vegetables unless they're hidden in sauce. Lily is afraid of thunderstorms. Ethan has nightmares sometimes about things happening to me. They all think fart jokes are the height of comedy. Julian smiled. "Tell me more." And despite herself, Vanessa found herself talking. About the time Mason got his head stuck in the stair railing. About Lily's phase of only wearing her princess costume. About Ethan teaching himself to read before preschool. About birthday parties and holidays and the million tiny moments that made up their lives. Julian listened to every word, his expressions cycling through joy and grief and regret. This was what he had missed, not just the big milestones but the everyday magic of watching children grow. "I want to support you financially," Julian said when she paused. "Back pay for 5 years of child support, plus ongoing support." "No." Vanessa's response was firm. "Vanessa, be reasonable. They're my children too. I have a responsibility. We've been fine without your money for 5 years. But you shouldn't have had to struggle." Julian's frustration showed. "I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Let me help." "This isn't about help, Julian. It's about control." Vanessa stood up, agitated. "The moment I take your money, you have leverage. You can hold it over my head." "I would never do that." "You already did. Have you forgotten?" When we were together, you bought me things I didn't ask for, paid for things I could have paid for myself. And then when your stepmother needed ammunition against me, what did she use? Fabricated evidence that I was spending your money. That was different, and you know it. Those were lies. But the principle is the same. Vanessa crossed her arms. I won't be dependent on you. I won't give you that power. They stood at an impasse until Julian spoke quietly. What if we set up education trusts for them? Money they can access for college. You wouldn't touch it. It would be directly for their future. Vanessa considered it. That felt different. Not about her, about the children's opportunities. I'll think about it. It was the best he was going to get, and they both knew it. Friday came and Julian was discharged. Vanessa was working that day, so she wasn't there, but Julian texted her that evening. I'm home. Thank you for this week. Seeing them every day has meant everything. Can we do our first official visit tomorrow? Vanessa looked at the triplets, who were building a fort out of couch cushions in the living room. They had asked about Julian at dinner, wanted to know when they would see him again. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., Laurelwood Park. 2 hours. His response was immediate. I'll be there. Thank you, Vanessa, for giving me this chance. She didn't respond because she wasn't sure she was ready to acknowledge the magnitude of what she was doing. She was letting Julian Westbrook back into her life, the man who had destroyed her, the man who was the father of her children, the man she had never quite stopped loving, even when she hated him. This was either the bravest thing she had ever done or the biggest mistake. Saturday afternoon arrived with perfect spring weather. Vanessa dressed the triplets in play clothes and packed a bag with snacks, water bottles, and wet wipes, the essentials of any outing with 5-year-olds. Julian was already at the park when they arrived, sitting on a bench near the playground. He stood when he saw them, and Vanessa noticed he was dressed casually in jeans and a simple sweater. No designer labels visible. He was trying. Mason ran ahead immediately. Dad, he shouted, watch me on the monkey bars. The casual use of dad made both Vanessa and Julian freeze. It was the first time any of the children had called him that outside of direct address. I'm watching, Julian called back, his voice catching. Lily took his hand when they reached the bench. Will you push me on the swings? I would love to. Ethan stayed close to Vanessa, still cautious. She sat on the bench and he sat beside her, watching his siblings with Julian. How are you feeling about all this? Vanessa asked him quietly. Ethan shrugged. He seems nice. But you seem sad when he's around. Perceptive child. I'm not sad, baby. It's just complicated. Because he hurt you before? Yes. But I don't want you to worry about that. My feelings are my responsibility, not yours. They sat in silence for a moment, watching Julian push Lily on the swing, her delighted laughter carrying across the playground. Mommy, if you're not with Dad, does that mean you'll never get married? The question surprised her. I don't know, Ethan. Maybe someday. Why? Because my friend Tyler says his mom is lonely since his dad left. Are you lonely? Vanessa's throat tightened. Sometimes. But I have you three. That's enough for me. But you should have someone to love you like you love us. Out of the mouths of babes, I do have someone to love me. I have 3 someones who love me very much. That's different, Ethan said seriously. That's kid love. You need grown-up love too. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise, Ethan said matter-of-factly. You just don't always listen. Vanessa laughed and pulled him into a hug. He tolerated it for a moment before squirming away to join his siblings. That left Vanessa alone on the bench, watching Julian with their children. He was fully engaged, present in a way she remembered from before everything went wrong. This was the Julian she had fallen in love with, the one who gave his complete attention to whatever mattered. Before, it had been his company. Now, it was his children. Could people really change? Or was this just temporary? A burst of guilt fueled enthusiasm that would fade when the reality of parenting set in. Can I sit? Julian's voice interrupted her thoughts. She nodded and he settled onto the bench, leaving respectful distance between them. They're incredible, he said, watching the triplets play. You've done an amazing job with them. Thank you. I mean it, Vanessa. The way they interact with each other, the way they're polite and thoughtful. Mason held the gate open for an older woman. Lily helped a younger kid reach the water fountain. Ethan saw another child sitting alone and invited him to play. Those are things they learned from you. It's just basic decency. It's more than that, and you know it. Julian turned to look at her directly. You've raised them to be good humans. Kind, empathetic, curious. That doesn't happen by accident. Vanessa felt her defenses weakening. This was dangerous. She couldn't let herself soften toward him. Don't do that. Her voice was sharp. Do what? Compliment me. Try to get on my good side. This isn't about you and me, Julian. It's about you and them. I know that, he said quietly. But Vanessa, you and I are going to be in each other's lives for the rest of our lives now. We're co-parents. We need to find a way to exist together without all this anger. I'm not angry. Yes, you are. And you have every right to be. I'm angry at myself. Julian ran a hand through his hair. But we can't raise children from a place of anger and resentment. We both know that. He was right. Damn him. He was right. So what do you suggest? She asked. Therapy, Julian said. Co-parenting therapy. We work with a professional to establish boundaries, communication strategies, ways to put the kids first. You've really thought about this. I've thought about nothing else for a week, he admitted. I've read 17 books on parenting, subscribed to podcasts, talked to a family therapist. I'm trying to do this right, Vanessa. Despite herself, she was touched. 17 books? Turns out I missed a lot. There's apparently a whole developmental stage I knew nothing about. Did you know they're in the pre-operational stage of cognitive development according to Piaget? Vanessa couldn't help the small smile. You're such a nerd. I prefer the term enthusiastically educated. The joke, so reminiscent of their old dynamic, hung between them. For just a moment, it felt like before, like they were Vanessa and Julian again, not two people divided by hurt and time. Then Mason came running over. Dad, I'm hungry. Do you have snacks? Julian looked panicked. I didn't bring any. It's okay. Vanessa pulled out her prepared bag. I've got granola bars and apple slices. You're amazing, Julian said without thinking. Their eyes met and held for a beat too long. Vanessa looked away first, handing out snacks to the children. The rest of the visit passed smoothly. At 4 o'clock, Vanessa announced it was time to go. The children protested but complied when she promised they could see Julian again soon. When can I see you guys next? Julian asked, directing the question to the triplets but glancing at Vanessa. Can you come to our apartment tomorrow? Lily asked. I want to show you my drawings at home. Vanessa hesitated. Letting him into their home felt like a bigger step than neutral territory. Please, Mommy? Lily's eyes were wide and hopeful. Okay. Vanessa relented. Tomorrow at 2. Thank you, Julian said, and the gratitude in his voice was genuine. That night, after the children were asleep, Vanessa sat in the small living room of her apartment and looked at it with fresh eyes. This was where she had built her life. The couch was second-hand but clean. The walls were covered with children's art. The shelves held books and toys, organized chaos that spoke of a lived-in home. Tomorrow, Julian would see all of it. The modest apartment that was all she could afford on a nurse's salary. The evidence of 5 years of making do. Of budgeting carefully. Of providing for 3 children alone. Part of her was embarrassed. Julian's world was penthouse apartments and luxury. This would seem like poverty to him. But another part was fiercely proud. This was hers. Every piece of furniture, every toy, every book had been earned. This home was built on love and determination, not inherited wealth. Let him see it. Let him understand what his absence had meant, not just emotionally, but practically. This was what raising triplets on a single income looked like. Her phone buzzed. A text from Julian. Thank you for today. I know it's not easy for you. I just want you to know I see that. I appreciate it. She stared at the message for a long time before responding. Just don't disappoint them. That's all I ask. I won't. I promise. Promises were easy. Keeping them was the hard part. But maybe, just maybe, Julian had finally learned that lesson. Vanessa set her phone aside and got ready for bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Julian in her home. More questions from the children. More cracks in the walls she had built around her heart. But tonight, She let herself feel a small spark of something she had thought was dead. Not hope exactly. Not yet. But maybe the possibility of hope. And sometimes, that was enough. If you're still with me, if you can feel every emotion of this complicated journey, I need you to show some love. Hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Cedar Drama because this story is about to get even more intense, and you don't want to miss what happens next. Drop a comment and tell me, is Julian proving himself or is Vanessa right to keep her guard up? Your thoughts fuel this community. Now let's continue, because what happens when Julian sees their home, their real life, will change everything. Sunday afternoon, Vanessa cleaned the apartment with more vigor than usual. The children helped, excited to show their dad where they lived. Mason organized his toy cars into precise lines. Lily arranged her drawings. Ethan straightened the books on the shelf. At exactly 2 o'clock, there was a knock on the door. "I'll get it." Mason raced to the door before Vanessa could stop him. She took a deep breath and opened the door. Julian stood in the hallway, holding a bakery box and looking nervous in a way she had never seen him. "Hi." He offered the box. "I brought cookies. The bakery said they were good for kids, but if they're not appropriate, I understand." "Cookies." Mason's eyes lit up. "After dinner," Vanessa corrected, taking the box. "Thank you. Come in." Julian stepped into the small apartment, and Vanessa saw him take it all in. The worn but clean furniture. The cheerful chaos of children's belongings. The photos covering every available surface, documenting 5 years of birthdays and holidays and everyday moments he had missed. "Welcome to our home," she said, unable to keep a slight edge from her voice. "It's wonderful." Julian's voice was sincere. "It feels like a real home. Lived in. Loved." Vanessa hadn't expected that response. "Come see our room." Lily grabbed Julian's hand and pulled him down the short hallway. The children shared one bedroom, 3 twin beds arranged carefully in the small space. Each had their own area personalized with their belongings. The walls were covered with more artwork, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, a bookshelf overflowing with library books. "This is my bed," Mason pointed. "And that's my rocket collection on the shelf. I drew all these." Lily showed him her wall of taped-up drawings. "And I keep my books here." Ethan indicated his organized shelf. Julian took his time looking at everything, asking questions, showing genuine interest. Vanessa watched from the doorway, her emotions a tangled mess. "You all share this room?" Julian asked. "Yeah," Ethan said. "Mommy says when we're older we might get a bigger place where we each have our own room, but I kind of like being together." "Me too," Lily agreed. "I don't like being alone in the dark. Come see the rest." Mason pulled Julian back to the living area. They showed him everything. The kitchen where Mommy made pancakes every Saturday. The table where they did homework and art projects. The couch where they piled up for movie night. The small balcony where they grew tomatoes in pots every summer. Julian absorbed it all, and Vanessa saw the moment he truly understood. This was what she had done alone. In this small space, with limited resources, she had created a childhood for their children. It wasn't luxurious, but it was full of love. "Can we show Dad our photo albums?" Lily asked. "Sure." Vanessa retrieved the 3 albums she kept, one for each child. They settled on the couch, Triplets squeezed around Julian as they opened the books. Vanessa sat in the chair opposite, watching. "That's us when we were babies," Mason pointed. "We were really tiny." Julian's hands trembled slightly as he turned the pages. Newborn photos, the triplets in the NICU, so small and fragile. First smiles, first bath, first solid foods. "You kept all of this." His voice was rough with emotion. "Of course," Vanessa said. "They deserved to know their story." This was their first birthday. Lily pointed to a photo of 3 babies with cake-smeared faces. Mommy made the cake herself. Julian looked up at Vanessa. "You made a 3-tier cake?" YouTube tutorials are very helpful. He turned back to the album. More photos. First steps, first words. Halloween costumes. Christmas mornings. Beach trips. Park adventures. Every milestone documented carefully. "Who took all these photos?" Julian asked. Vanessa felt a lump in her throat. "I did," Self-timers, tripods, asking strangers at parks. I wanted them to have family photos, even if it was just the four of us. Julian reached a page that made him stop completely. It was from the triplets' third birthday. In the photo, Vanessa had her arms around all three children, all of them laughing at something off-camera. But in the background, barely visible, was a framed photo on the shelf. Julian's photo, the one she had kept all these years. "You kept my picture," he said quietly. The children went quiet, sensing the emotional weight of the moment. "They asked about you," Vanessa said softly. "I showed them the one photo I had. Told them that sometimes people can't be together, but that didn't mean they weren't loved." "Did you tell them I was dead?" Julian asked, pain evident in his voice. "No." Vanessa met his gaze. "I told them the truth, that you didn't know about them. That sometimes life is complicated. Mommy used to cry sometimes when she looked at your picture," Lily said with a child's brutal honesty. "But she always put it back on the shelf." Vanessa felt exposed, vulnerable. "That's enough albums for now. Who wants to play a game?" The children, easily redirected, immediately started debating which game to play. Vanessa escaped the kitchen, needing a moment. Julian followed her. "Vanessa," he said quietly, "don't." She kept her back to him, gripping the counter. "You kept my picture. Even after everything. For them. Not for me. Did you really cry looking at it?" She turned on him, anger flashing. "Yes, Julian, I cried. I cried because I had loved you, and you threw me away. I cried because our children would grow up without a father. I cried because life wasn't fair, and I was exhausted and alone. Are you happy now?" "No." Julian's voice broke. "I'm not happy. I'm devastated. Seeing those albums, seeing everything you did alone, seeing what I missed. It's killing me, Vanessa." "Good." The word came out harsh. "You should feel that. You should understand what your mistake cost." "I do. I swear to you. I do." They stood in the small kitchen, years of pain and regret hanging between them like smoke. "I need you to understand something," Vanessa said finally. "I'm not that girl anymore. The one who loved you so much she would have forgiven anything. You broke her. She doesn't exist." "I know. So if we're going to do this, if you're going to be part of their lives, we need clear boundaries. You're their father. That's all. Don't expect more from me." "I'm not," Julian said. "All I want is a chance to be their dad." "Okay then. Okay." They returned to the living room where the children had set up a board game. For the next hour, they played together, laughed together, existed together as something resembling a family. And if it hurt, if it reminded Vanessa of dreams she had once had, well, that was the price she would pay for her children's happiness. Part 2. Over the next 3 weeks, Julian became a regular presence in their lives. He came to the apartment twice a week for dinner. He met them at the park on Saturdays. He attended Mason's first soccer practice and Lily's art show at school. He helped Ethan with a science project about the solar system. And slowly, carefully, he became dad. Not just the title, but the reality. He learned that Lily needed extra reassurance before bed, that Mason needed to burn off energy before he could focus, that Ethan processed emotions internally and needed patient, quiet support. Vanessa watched it all with mixed feelings. Pride that her children were handling this so well, relief that Julian was taking it seriously, but also grief for the years they had all lost, and fear that this couldn't last. It was Rachel who finally called her out on it. They were having coffee at a cafe near the hospital, a rare moment when Vanessa wasn't working or parenting. "You need to deal with your feelings about Julian," Rachel said bluntly. "I'm dealing with them fine." "No, you're suppressing them. There's a difference." Rachel stirred her latte. "Vanessa, I've known you for 8 years. I was there when you fell in love with him. I was there when he broke your heart. And I'm here now watching you pretend you don't still have feelings for him." "I don't." The denial was automatic. "Liar." Rachel said it without heat. "I saw your face when he brought Lily that art easel for her birthday. You looked at him like you used to. That was gratitude. For my daughter. Keep telling yourself that." Rachel leaned forward. "Look, I'm not saying you should forgive him or get back together with him. What he did was unforgivable. But you need to acknowledge what you're feeling instead of pushing it down. What good would that do? It would let you heal, Rachel said gently. You've been in survival mode for 5 years. Working, raising the kids, just getting through each day. But Vanessa, you're allowed to have feelings. Complicated ones. You're allowed to be angry and hurt and also still care about him. Those things can coexist. Vanessa felt tears prick her eyes. If I let myself feel it, all of it, I don't know if I can hold it together. So don't hold it together. Fall apart. That's what I'm here for. And just like that, 5 years of carefully controlled emotion came pouring out. Vanessa cried in the cafe while Rachel held her hand, not saying anything, just being present. When the storm finally passed, Vanessa felt wrung out, but somehow lighter. I loved him so much, she said quietly, and he destroyed me. How do I reconcile that with the man who reads bedtime stories to our children and remembers that Lily likes her sandwiches cut into stars? I don't know, Rachel admitted, but I think maybe you're asking the wrong question. What should I be asking? Not how do you reconcile the past and present, Julian, but who is he now? Is he the same man who hurt you? Or has he actually changed? Vanessa didn't have an answer. That evening, Julian came for dinner as planned. Vanessa had made spaghetti, the kids' favorite. They were all at the table, Mason talking with his mouth full, Lily carefully twirling her pasta, Ethan reading the back of the Parmesan cheese container because he read everything. Ethan, no reading at dinner, Vanessa said automatically. Sorry, Mommy. But did you know that Parmesan has to age for at least 12 months? That's fascinating, buddy, Julian said. Maybe we could visit a cheese-making place sometime. See how it's made. Really? Ethan's eyes lit up. If your mom says it's okay. 3 pairs of eyes turned to Vanessa expectantly. We'll see, she said, the universal parent response. After dinner, Julian helped clean up while the kids played in the living room. It had become routine, this domestic dance around the small kitchen. Thank you for letting me be part of this, Julian said as he dried dishes. I know it's not easy for you. They need their father. That's not what I asked. He set down the towel and turned to face her. Is it easy for you, having me here? Vanessa paused, Rachel's words echoing in her mind. No, it's not easy. It's actually incredibly difficult. Julian looked stricken. Do you want me to pull back? No. Vanessa surprised herself with the honesty. The kids need you. But Julian, you need to understand something. Every time you're here, every time I see you with them, it reminds me of what we could have had, what we should have had. And that hurts. I'm sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't erase 5 years. It doesn't undo the damage. What can I do? Keep showing up. Vanessa met his gaze. Keep being the father they deserve. That's all I'm asking. And what about what you deserve? The question caught her off guard. What? You deserve more than just to be co-parenting with someone who hurt you. You deserve happiness, Vanessa. Someone who treats you the way you should be treated. Her throat tightened. That's not your concern. But it is. Julian took a step closer. Because I still care about you. I know I have no right to. I know I destroyed any chance we had. But I need you to know that I see you. I see how hard you work, how much you sacrifice. I see what an incredible mother you are. And I'm in awe of you. Julian, don't. I'm not trying to start anything, he said quickly. I just need you to hear it. You're remarkable, and you deserve to know that. Before Vanessa could respond, Mason came running into the kitchen. Dad, come play blocks with us. We're building a castle. The moment broken, Julian followed Mason back to the living room. Vanessa stood at the sink, her hands in the soapy water, her heart pounding. This was getting complicated in ways she hadn't anticipated. The next Saturday, Julian picked up the triplets for their first solo outing without Vanessa. They were going to the aquarium, something the kids had been begging for. Vanessa triple-checked their backpack. Snacks, water bottles, emergency contacts, Band-Aids. I've got it, Julian assured her. We'll be fine. Mason gets carsick if he reads in the car. Lily needs to use the bathroom immediately when she says she needs to or there will be an accident. Ethan gets overwhelmed in crowds and needs quiet breaks. I wrote it all down from the list you sent. Julian showed her his phone, plus your number on speed dial. Okay. Vanessa took a breath. Okay. We'll be back by 5. Call me if anything happens. I will. Vanessa watched them leave, Julian holding Lily's hand, Ethan and Mason walking on either side of him, her babies, with their father, without her. The apartment felt impossibly quiet. She tried to enjoy the free time, cleaned, did laundry, read a book, but mostly she checked her phone obsessively. At noon, Julian sent a photo. All 3 kids, with their faces pressed against the glass of the shark tank, eyes wide with wonder. At 2, another photo. Mason asleep on Julian's shoulder in the aquarium cafe, completely worn out. At 3:30, a video. Lily explaining in great detail everything she had learned about seahorses. They were fine. Better than fine. They were having a wonderful time. So why did Vanessa feel like crying? When they returned at 5 on the dot, all 3 kids were chattering excitedly about everything they had seen. And Dad bought us stuffed animals from the gift shop. Mason held up a plush octopus. He said we could each pick one. Lily showed off her seahorse. Even Ethan, usually more reserved, was excited. The shark exhibit was incredible. Did you know that great white sharks can detect 1 drop of blood in 25 gallons of water? That's amazing, Vanessa said, looking at Julian over their heads. He looked exhausted but happy. It was a good day. Thank you for taking them. It was my pleasure, he said sincerely. Same time next week? The kids cheered before Vanessa could answer. She laughed despite herself. I guess that's a yes. After Julian left, after the kids were bathed and in pajamas, Lily crawled into Vanessa's lap. I love Dad, she said simply. He's really nice. I'm glad, sweetheart. Do you love him too? The question froze Vanessa. It's complicated, baby. Why? Because sometimes grown-ups have a history that makes things hard. Lily considered this. But you loved him before, right? That's how you made us? Yes. I loved him very much. So you could love him again. Lily said it like it was the simplest thing in the world. If only it were that easy. But Lily's words stayed with her. Could she love him again? Did she already and was just too scared to admit it? The following Tuesday, Vanessa got a call at work that made her blood run cold. Miss Carter? This is Principal Hughes from Greenwood Elementary. There's been an incident with Mason. Vanessa's heart stopped. Is he okay? He fell from the climbing structure on the playground. He's conscious, but he hit his head. The paramedics are here and they're recommending transport to the hospital to be safe. I'm on my way. Vanessa ran. She found Rachel, told her she had an emergency, and was in her car before her shift supervisor could even process the situation. At the school, an ambulance was parked at the entrance. Vanessa sprinted inside to find Mason on a stretcher, a cervical collar around his neck, crying for her. Mommy, I'm here, baby. I'm here. She grabbed his hand. Ma'am, you'll need to follow us to the hospital, the paramedic said gently. I'm coming with him. Then you'll need to ride in front. The ambulance ride was the longest 10 minutes of Vanessa's life. At Seattle Grace, they rushed Mason into the ER. The same ER where she worked, where colleagues she knew took over her son's care. She called her mother to pick up Ethan and Lily. And then, without really thinking about it, she called Julian. He answered on the first ring. Vanessa, what's wrong? Mason had an accident at school. We're at Seattle Grace. He fell and hit his head. I'm on my way. You don't have to come. He's my son. Julian's voice was firm. I'm coming. He arrived 20 minutes later, finding Vanessa in the waiting room while Mason was getting a CT scan. What happened? Julian sat beside her. Vanessa explained through tears. He was on the climbing structure. Apparently, he was trying to do monkey bars and lost his grip. Fell about 6 feet onto the mulch. Hit his head. Is he conscious? Talking? Yes. He was crying? Knew who I was. Those are good signs. But they want to rule out any bleeding or swelling. Julian took her hand and she was too emotionally exhausted to pull away. He's going to be okay, Julian said. He's tough. Like his mom. They sat together in silence, united in fear for their child. When the doctor finally came out, they both stood. Mason's CT scan looks good, Dr. Martinez said. No bleeding, no skull fracture. He does have a mild concussion, so we want to monitor him for 24 hours. Can I see him? Vanessa asked. Of course. He's asking for both of you, actually. Both of us? Vanessa repeated. He wants his mom and his dad. They walked into the room together. Mason was in the hospital bed, looking small and vulnerable, a bandage on his forehead. When he saw them, he started crying. Mommy. Daddy. I'm sorry. Oh, baby. Vanessa rushed to one side of the bed while Julian took the other. You have nothing to be sorry for. I wasn't being careful, Mason sobbed. I was showing off. Accidents happen, buddy, Julian said softly. The important thing is that you're okay. Does your head hurt? Vanessa smoothed his hair back gently. A little. But I'm more scared. Of what? That you're mad. That Dad won't want to see me anymore because I got hurt. Julian's face crumpled. Mason, look at me. Nothing you could do would make me not want to see you. You're my son. I love you. Really? Really? Julian kissed his forehead. I'm just glad you're okay. Mason looked between his parents. Can you both stay with me? Vanessa and Julian exchanged glances. Of course, Vanessa said. They settled into chairs on either side of Mason's bed. A nurse brought them blankets. The room lights dimmed for the evening. Mason fell asleep holding both their hands, one parent on each side. In the quiet of the hospital room, with only the sound of monitors beeping steadily, Vanessa finally let herself look at Julian. He was staring at their son with such naked love and fear and gratitude that it broke something open in her chest. Thank you for coming, she whispered. There's nowhere else I would be. Julian's eyes met hers across the bed. Vanessa, when you called, when you said he was hurt, I couldn't breathe. The thought of anything happening to him, to any of them. I know. She understood that fear intimately. I live with it every day. How do you do it? How do you handle the constant terror that something might happen to them? You just do. Because you have to. Because they need you to be strong. You're the strongest person I know. They lapsed into silence again. Mason stirred in his sleep and they both tensed, but he settled. Vanessa, Julian said quietly, can I tell you something? What? I know I don't have the right to your forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I need you to know that you and these kids, you're my whole world now. Everything I do, every decision I make, it's with you four in mind. Julian, I'm not asking for anything, he interrupted gently. I'm just telling you the truth. I love them. And I still love you. I probably never stopped. Vanessa felt tears streaming down her face. You can't just say things like that. Why not? It's true. Because it's not fair. You don't get to walk back into my life after 5 years and expect me to just forget everything. I'm not expecting that. Julian leaned forward as much as he could without disturbing Mason. I'm just being honest. Whatever happens between us, whether you ever forgive me or not, I'll still be here for them. But Vanessa, if there's even a chance, even the smallest possibility that someday you might be able to forgive me, I'll wait. She wiped her eyes. I don't know if I can. That's okay. I'll wait anyway. Mason shifted again, this time waking up. Mommy? Daddy? You're both still here. We're both still here, Vanessa assured him. We're not going anywhere. Good. Mason's eyes drifted closed again. I like it when we're all together. Me too, buddy, Julian whispered. Me too. Vanessa settled back in her chair, her hands still in Mason's. Across the bed, Julian hadn't let go either. They were connected, the three of them, by this small hand, and for the first time in 5 years, Vanessa let herself imagine what it might be like. Not to forget, not to erase the past, but to maybe, possibly, find a way forward. Mason was released the next afternoon with instructions for concussion monitoring. Vanessa took a few days off work to stay home with him. Julian came by every day, bringing activities to keep Mason entertained while he had to rest. On the third day, while Mason napped on the couch and Ethan and Lily were at school, Julian and Vanessa sat at the kitchen table with coffee. I've been thinking, Julian said, about what you said, about not being able to erase the past. Okay, you're right. We can't change what happened. But Vanessa, I want to try to build something new, not go back to what we were, but create something different, better. What are you suggesting? Real co-parenting, Not just visits and scheduled time. I want to be involved in decisions, school choices, medical stuff. I want to know their teachers and their friends' parents. I want to be at every soccer game and art show and science fair. Vanessa studied him. That's a big commitment. I know. And I'm ready for it. He pulled out his phone. I've already talked to my board. I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations. Promoting my COO to CEO. I'll stay on as chairman but with minimal responsibilities. You're stepping down from your company? It's not stepping down. It's reprioritizing, Julian said. I spent 5 years building a billion-dollar empire, and I was miserable. These last few weeks with the kids, with you, I've been happier than I've been in years. The company can run without me. But Ethan, Lily, and Mason, they need their dad. Vanessa felt her resistance crumbling. You're serious about this? Completely. I'm also selling my penthouse and buying a house in this neighborhood, close enough that the kids can walk between places when they're older. You've really thought about everything. I have. Julian reached across the table, but stopped short of touching her. I'm all in, Vanessa. Whatever it takes. Before she could respond, her phone rang. The school. Her heart jumped. Hello? Miss Carter, this is the school nurse. Lily isn't feeling well. Fever and upset stomach. Can you come get her? I'll be right there. She hung up and grabbed her keys. Lily's sick at school. I'll stay with Mason, Julian offered immediately. You go get her. The easy trust in that moment surprised them both. Vanessa nodded and left. 20 minutes later, she returned with a pale, feverish Lily. Julian had set up the couch with blankets and had a cool washcloth ready. Hey, sweetheart, he said gently. Not feeling good? Lily shook her head miserably and climbed onto Vanessa's lap. The rest of the afternoon was spent tending to 2 sick children. When Ethan came home from school, Julian made him a snack and helped with homework, while Vanessa juggled fever medication and comfort. At dinner time, Julian ordered soup delivery. By bedtime, both Mason and Lily were feeling better but exhausted. Vanessa got them settled and returned to the living room to find Julian cleaning up. He had washed the dishes, wiped down surfaces, even started a load of laundry. You didn't have to do all that, she said. I wanted to help. Julian straightened up. You looked exhausted. It's been a long few days. Sit down. Let me make you tea. And Vanessa, too tired to argue, sat. Julian moved around her kitchen with surprising familiarity, finding the tea and mugs, remembering that she took honey but no milk. He handed her the mug and sat across from her. You do this all the time, he said quietly. Alone. Usually. I can't imagine how hard that's been. You do what you have to do. Vanessa. Julian leaned forward. You don't have to do it alone anymore. I'm here. Let me help. She looked at him, really looked at him. The man who had broken her heart was sitting in her kitchen, offering partnership, offering support, offering everything she had needed 5 years ago. Why now, she asked. Why are you really doing all this? Because I finally understand what matters, Julian said simply. It's not money or success or building an empire. It's this. Sick kids and homework help and making tea at the end of a hard day. It's being there. Actually being there. Pretty words are easy, Julian. I know. So watch my actions. He met her gaze steadily. I'm not going anywhere, Vanessa. Not this time. The sincerity in his voice undid something in her. A wall she had been maintaining so carefully started to crack. I'm scared, she admitted. Scared to trust you. Scared of what happens if you leave again. Then don't trust me yet, Julian said. Make me earn it. Test me. Push me. I'll prove it to you. How? By staying. Every day. Every hard moment. Every time you push me away, I'll still be here the next day. He stood up. I should go. You need rest. At the door, he paused. Thank you for letting me help today. It meant everything. After he left, Vanessa sat in the quiet apartment. Her children were asleep, the dishes were done, and for the first time in 5 years, she hadn't done it all alone. Maybe, just maybe, Julian was serious. Over the next few weeks, Julian proved it. When Lily had a school play, he was in the front row. When Ethan's class took a field trip, Julian volunteered as a chaperone. When Mason had nightmares, Julian came over at 2 in the morning to help comfort him. He was there for the mundane too: grocery shopping, park trips, rainy afternoon movie marathons. He learned to braid Lily's hair from YouTube tutorials. He built a bookshelf for Ethan's growing collection. He coached Mason's soccer team. And slowly, Vanessa's walls came down. It happened in small moments. Julian's hand on her shoulder when she was stressed about bills. His laugh at one of her jokes. The way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching. Rachel noticed immediately. "You're falling for him again," she said one day at coffee. "I never stopped," Vanessa admitted. "I just pretended I had." "So what are you going to do about it?" "I have no idea. Maybe you should tell him." "And say what? That I'm terrified but I think I want to try again? That I'm still hurt but I'm also still in love with him?" "Yes," Rachel said simply. "Exactly that." But before Vanessa could figure out how to have that conversation, everything exploded. It started with a phone call to Julian's office. Vivian, his stepmother, the woman who had orchestrated the lies that destroyed his relationship with Vanessa, was back. Julian came to Vanessa's apartment that evening, his face tight with anger and stress. "What's wrong?" Vanessa asked immediately. Vivian called. "She knows about the kids." "How?" "I don't know. But she's threatening to make trouble. Something about grandparents' rights, about my fitness as a father. She has no standing." "You're their father." "But I wasn't for 5 years." Julian ran a hand through his hair. "She's threatening to go to the media, to make it a scandal. Billionaire CEO abandons Triplets. She'll destroy me and drag you and the kids through it." Vanessa felt cold. Why would she do this? "Money," Julian said bitterly. "She's burned through everything my father left her. She thinks she can extort me by threatening the kids. So what do we do?" Before Julian could answer, there was a knock at the door. Vanessa opened it to find a well-dressed woman in her 60s, with perfectly coiffed hair and cold eyes. "Vivian." Julian stepped protectively in front of Vanessa. "Julian, darling." Vivian's smile was poisonous. "Aren't you going to introduce me to your little family?" "Get out." Julian's voice was steel. "I don't think so. I came to meet my grandchildren. You have no rights here." Vanessa found her voice. "Oh, but I do." Vivian pushed past them into the apartment. "You see, when Julian abandoned his children for 5 years, that constitutes neglect, which means I can petition for custody, or, at least, very generous visitation rights. Of course, I'd be willing to forego all that for a reasonable settlement. This is extortion. This is family." Vivian's eyes were hard. "Those children are Westbrook's. They deserve to know their heritage, their grandfather's legacy." Ethan, Lily, and Mason had emerged from their room, drawn by the raised voices. "Who is that?" Lily whispered. Vivian's expression softened artificially. "Hello, children. I'm your grandmother." "No, you're not," Ethan said firmly. "Our grandmother is Grandma Gloria. You're a stranger." Vivian's mask slipped for a moment, anger flashing across her face. "Kids, go back to your room," Vanessa said firmly. After they retreated, Vanessa turned on Vivian. "Get out of my home, now, or I'm calling the police." "You're making a mistake," Vivian said coldly. "I have lawyers. I have resources. You're a single mother barely making ends meet. Do you really think you can fight me?" "She doesn't have to fight you alone." Julian stepped forward. "Because I'm going to destroy you. Every dirty secret, every shady dealing, everything you've done. I stayed quiet before to protect my father's memory. But if you come after my family, I'll burn it all down and you with it. You wouldn't dare. Try me." Julian pulled out his phone. "I already have a lawyer on retainer. And evidence of your embezzlement from my father's estate. Shall I forward it to the authorities? Or will you leave quietly?" Vivian's face went white. "You're bluffing." "Am I? Because I have 5 years of being without my children to answer for. I have nothing left to lose. But you have prison time to avoid." The standoff lasted a long moment. Then Vivian turned on her heel. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is," Julian said. "Come near my family again and I'll have you arrested. That's a promise." After she left, Vanessa locked the door with shaking hands. Julian immediately called his lawyer, explaining the situation and getting a restraining order started. Vanessa checked on the kids. They were huddled together in Ethan's bed, scared. "Is that lady going to take us away?" Mason asked, tears in his eyes. "No, baby. No one is taking you anywhere." Vanessa pulled all three into her arms. "You're safe. Dad won't let her," Ethan said with certainty. "He'll protect us." The faith in his voice made Vanessa's throat tight. When she returned to the living room, Julian was off the phone. "It's handled. Restraining order will be in place by morning. My lawyer says she has no case for grandparents' rights, since she was never part of their lives." "Thank you," Vanessa said. "I should have dealt with her years ago." Julian's jaw was tight. "I'm sorry she brought her poison here. This isn't your fault, isn't it?" He met her eyes. "Everything that's happened, it all traces back to her manipulations. And I fell for it. I believed her lies about you. You were grieving. That's not an excuse." Julian sat heavily on the couch. "I should have trusted you. Should have asked you directly instead of believing fabricated evidence. My weakness destroyed 5 years of our lives." Vanessa sat beside him. "You're right. You should have trusted me. And I'll always carry anger about that. But Julian, you're not the same person you were then." "No, I'm not." He looked at her. "Losing you changed me. Finding out about the kids changed me. I'm trying to be better." "I know. And you are better. The way you are with them, the way you show up, the way you fought for them just now. That's the man I wish you'd been 5 years ago." "I wish I had been too." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything pressing down. "Vanessa." Julian turned to her. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Okay. Do you think you could ever really forgive me? Not for the kids, not because it's easier, but truly forgive me?" Vanessa took a breath. "I've been asking myself that question for weeks, and I think the answer is yes. I think I'm already forgiving you. Slowly. It's not complete yet. Some days I'm still angry. But watching you with them, seeing how hard you're trying, it's healing something in me." "Really?" "Really." She met his eyes. "You broke me, Julian, but you're also helping put me back together. That's confusing and complicated, and sometimes it makes me angry all over again. But it's also real. I don't deserve your forgiveness." "Maybe not. But I'm learning that forgiveness isn't about what you deserve. It's about what I need. And I need to let go of this anger because it's exhausting carrying it." Julian's hand found hers. "I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving that your forgiveness wasn't misplaced. Just don't disappoint our kids. That's all I ask." "Our kids?" Julian smiled. "I love when you say that. Well, they are. For better or worse. Definitely for better." The moment hung between them, charged with possibility. Julian leaned in slightly and Vanessa didn't pull away. Their lips met in a kiss that was tentative and gentle, and full of 5 years of longing. When they pulled apart, Vanessa rested her forehead against his. "This is crazy." "Completely," Julian agreed. "But maybe it's the good kind of crazy." "We're going to have to go slow," Vanessa said. "For the kids. They can't see us together until we're sure." "I can do slow. I've waited 5 years. I can wait as long as you need." They kissed again, and this time it felt like a promise. Over the next few months, they dated. Real dates. Dinner when the kids were with Vanessa's mother. Coffee before work. Walks in the park after the children were asleep. They talked about everything. The past, the future, their fears and hopes. And slowly, carefully, they fell in love again. Or maybe they just acknowledged that they had never really fallen out of love. 3 months after Vivian's confrontation, Julian invited Vanessa and the kids to see his new house. He had bought a beautiful craftsman-style home 3 blocks from their apartment. 4 bedrooms, a big backyard, a swing set already installed. The triplets ran through the house with shrieks of delight. "This is amazing," Ethan breathed. "Which room is ours?" Mason asked. Julian had prepared for this. "You each get your own room." He showed them 3 bedrooms, each decorated based on what he knew about them. Ethan's had floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. Lily's had an art station by the window. Mason's had space for all his building projects. "Can we really stay here?" Lily asked. "Whenever you want." Julian knelt down to their level. "This is your home too. You're always welcome here." "What about Mommy?" Ethan asked. "Does she get a room?" Julian and Vanessa exchanged glances. That's up to your mom. Vanessa took a breath. Actually, kids, your dad and I need to talk to you about something. They gathered in the living room, three curious faces looking between their parents. Your dad and I have been spending a lot of time together, Vanessa started. We know, Mason interrupted. You go on dates. Grandma told us. Of course she did. Vanessa laughed. Okay, so you know we've been dating. Are you getting married? Lily asked, hopefully. We're not there yet, Julian said gently. But we are together. We wanted you to know officially. Does this mean we're a real family now? Ethan asked. You've always been a real family, Vanessa assured him. But yes, it means Mom and Dad are together. The children processed this with varying reactions. Mason cheered. Lily clapped her hands. Ethan smiled, his approval evident. So can we call this our family house? Mason asked. Julian looked at Vanessa. What do you think? I think, Vanessa said slowly, that maybe we can start spending more time here. See how it feels. Can we move in? Lily asked. All of us? That's a big step, Vanessa said. Let's take it slow. But over the next 6 months, slow turned into steady. They spent weekends at Julian's house, then weekdays too. Vanessa kept her apartment at first, a safety net, but gradually, it sat empty. 1 year after the hospital reunion, Vanessa finally gave up the lease. They moved into Julian's house as a family. It wasn't always easy. There were arguments about parenting styles, disagreements about boundaries, moments when old hurts resurfaced. But they worked through it, with therapy, with honest communication, with commitment to making it work. 2 years after the reunion, on a quiet evening after the kids were asleep, Julian proposed, not with fanfare or grand gestures, just the two of them on the back porch, watching fireflies. I know we're already living as a family, Julian said, but I want to make it official. I want to marry you, Vanessa. Not because of the kids, because I love you, because I can't imagine my life without you. Vanessa looked at the ring he offered. Simple, elegant, perfect. Is this the same ring from before? No, Julian smiled. This is new. For the people we are now, not who we were. Vanessa slipped it on her finger. Then my answer is yes. They married 6 months later in a small ceremony in the backyard. Ethan, Lily, and Mason stood with them, part of the ceremony. Not just witnesses, but participants in the formation of their family. When the officiant pronounced them married, the children cheered louder than anyone. 3 years after the reunion, Vanessa stood in the kitchen of their home, watching through the window as Julian played soccer with the triplets in the backyard. They were 8 now, growing so fast it made her heart ache. Her hand rested on her belly, where a new life was growing. Twins this time, because apparently their family was destined for multiples. She hadn't told Julian yet, was waiting for the right moment. Mommy! Lily came running inside. Are you making cookies? I can. Vanessa smiled. Wanna help? As they worked together, measuring flour and sugar, Vanessa reflected on the journey that had brought them here, the heartbreak, the reunion, the slow rebuilding of trust, the choice to forgive. It hadn't been easy. But standing here in their kitchen, their home filled with laughter and love, Vanessa knew it had been worth it. Julian came inside, breathless and sweaty from playing. The boys are conspiring to build a fort. I give it until tomorrow before they actually start. Let them dream. Vanessa handed him a glass of water. He kissed her temple. What are you thinking about? You have that look. Just how far we've come. It's been quite a journey. Julian wrapped his arms around her from behind. Any regrets? She thought about it honestly. I regret the time we lost. The years you missed with them. But I don't regret where we ended up. Me neither. He rested his chin on her shoulder. We got our happy ending after all. Actually, Vanessa turned in his arms. I have something to tell you. About our ending. Or really, our next beginning. His eyes widened. Are you? Twins. She confirmed. Apparently we can't do anything by halves. Julian's face cycled through shock, joy, and wonder. Twins. He laughed. Of course. Why would we start small now? You're happy? Happy doesn't cover it. He kissed her deeply. Terrified and thrilled, and so incredibly happy. That evening, they told the triplets at dinner. The reactions were predictably loud and enthusiastic. 2 more? Mason's eyes were huge. So there'll be 5 of us? That's a lot of kids, Ethan said. But he was smiling. I hope at least 1 is a girl, Lily declared. I need backup against all these boys. As the children debated names and made plans, Julian reached for Vanessa's hand under the table. She squeezed back, this simple gesture saying everything. They had been broken. They had been lost. But they had found their way back to each other. And now they were building something beautiful. Not perfect, never perfect, but real and messy and full of love. That night, after the children were asleep, Vanessa and Julian stood in the doorway of each bedroom, Ethan asleep with a book on his chest, Lily's drawings covering every surface, Mason's models organized with precise care. Our family, Julian whispered. Our family, Vanessa agreed. 5 years ago, standing in that emergency room, Vanessa never could have imagined this, that the man she had run from would become her partner, that the secret she had kept would become the bridge that brought them together. Life had a funny way of working out, not the way you planned, not the way you expected. But sometimes, if you were brave enough to forgive, strong enough to try again, wise enough to learn from the past, you could find your way to exactly where you needed to be. And as Vanessa climbed into bed beside Julian, his arm pulling her close, their children safe down the hall and new lives growing inside her, she knew with absolute certainty. She was home. 6 months later, Vanessa gave birth to twin boys. The delivery was easier than the triplets had been, though still challenging. Julian was there for every moment, holding her hand, offering support, cutting the umbilical cords. They named them Carter and Bennett, family names that honored both sides. The triplets, now 9, were amazing big siblings. Ethan was gentle and patient. Lily sang to the babies constantly. Mason wanted to help with everything. Their house was chaos. 5 children under 10 meant noise and mess and constant motion. But it was joyful chaos. Julian had fully stepped back from his company, working from home a few hours a day at most. His priorities had completely shifted. Vanessa had reduced her hours at the hospital to part-time, wanting to be present for this season of their lives. Money wasn't a concern. Julian's wealth ensured that. But more importantly, they were rich in what mattered. Love, laughter, family. On their 2nd wedding anniversary, Julian surprised Vanessa with a photo album. Inside were pictures from the past 3 years. Their wedding, holidays, everyday moments, the twins' birth, the triplets' 9th birthday. But interspersed were the photos from before, the ones Vanessa had shown him in her apartment that first week. He had recreated the album, blending past and present into one continuous story. Our story, he said as they looked through it together. All of it. The good and the bad. Because it all brought us here. Vanessa traced a photo of Julian with all 5 children piled on him, everyone laughing. I used to think the time we lost was wasted, but now I think maybe we needed it. We needed to become who we are now. Wiser? More broken and healed, Vanessa corrected. You can't appreciate light without darkness. That's very philosophical. Comes with sleep deprivation and twins. Julian laughed and pulled her close. I love you, Vanessa Westbrook. I love you too. And she meant it. Completely. Without reservation. The doorway to the past was finally, fully closed. And the future stretched ahead, full of possibility. If this story touched your heart, if you felt every emotion of this incredible journey, I need you to do something right now. Hit that like button. Smash it. Let me know this story resonated with you. Subscribe to Cedar Drama because we're creating a community of people who believe in second chances, in forgiveness, in the power of love to heal even the deepest wounds. Drop a comment and tell me what moment hit you hardest. Was it when Julian first saw the triplets? When Vanessa finally let her walls down? When the family came together in the hospital? I read every single comment. And your stories, your thoughts, they inspire everything we create here. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late. That mistakes don't define us forever. That love, real patient, proven love, can overcome anything. If you're still here, If you watched or listened to this entire story, type in the comments, "I believe in second chances," because that's what this community is about. Believing in the possibility of redemption, of healing, of happy endings that are earned, not given. Thank you for being part of the Cedar Drama family. Thank you for investing your time in this story. Until next time, remember this: your story isn't over. The mistakes you've made, the hurt you've caused or received, they're not the end. Every day is a chance to choose differently. To love harder, to forgive deeper, to build something beautiful from broken pieces. This is Cedar Drama, reminding you that sometimes the best love stories are the ones that fall apart and find their way back together. Stay beautiful, stay hopeful, and I'll see you in the next story.